Good evening, boys and girls. This is Grandma Priscilla again, and I have another story I'm going to tell you. I was going to wait till next week to tell you, but I think I'll tell you tonight. It's a story about when my daddy and I were lost in the fog at night. And it's kind of a fun story, and it taught me a lot. So, long ago, when I was a little girl, my daddy liked to go hunting. He liked to go hunt for raccoons, and we called it coon hunting because that's what we called them, was coons instead of raccoons. And he had some land that there was a lot of woodlands there, and that's where he would go. And he had a favorite rock that he would sit down and rest on while the dogs ran ahead and tried to find a raccoon. And he would hear the dogs bark, and he would listen to them for a long time. And finally, their bark would change whenever they found a raccoon. And so he knew then that it was time to get up and walk and go toward where the dogs were. So I went with him this particular evening, and we were sitting there on the rock and listening, and he was teaching me about the different sounds that the dogs make and what they're doing when they're making a certain sound. And we listened and listened, and finally it was time to go find the dogs. Well, we got up and we started walking. Now you can't see very well. We did have some lights. Daddy had a light on his hat, and it was a carbide light. The carbide made the flame, and he would wear it on his hat, and it would guide us so we could see. And I think we may have had a flashlight too. I'm not sure, but anyway, we could see a little bit, but not a whole lot. But the way that Daddy could get through the woods is because that these particular woods he roamed in when he was a little boy. His daddy owned that land, and when my daddy was little, and he roamed those woods all the time, so he knew where everything was in the woods. He could find his way easily. But this particular night, it was kind of damp and foggy. In fact, it was very foggy. And there was a river that we were going to have to cross. And most of the time, this river wasn't very deep, and you could just kind of walk across it and maybe get your feet a little bit wet, but not too bad. But it had been raining a lot, and the river was up very deep. But we still had to get across it to get back to our car, to be able to walk out of the woods and be able to go home. So we couldn't see very well. And so Daddy told me to hold on to the loop on the back of his pants where his belt went through. He said, "You hold on there and don't turn loose, and we'll walk through this." Excuse me. So I was a little bit scared, but I trusted my daddy because I knew Daddy loved me, and I knew he'd take care of me, and he wouldn't let anything happen to me. So I held on, and he had a gun with him that was a shotgun or a rifle. That's what you take when you go hunting. And anyway, he had it raised way above him so the water wouldn't get in it. And the water came up to about his waist. But on me, because I was so short, the water came up to about right here. Just my head was out of the water. And it was kind of cold water. And I was kind of scared because I couldn't swim. And I couldn't see where we were going. And I just had to trust Daddy. Well, Daddy knew where to cross. And he knew where to get out of the water. That was the best place to get out. So here we went. We walked into the water, and the water came up deep on me. My head was out of the water. And I was thinking, what if there's a drop-off, and what if I fall? But Daddy said, "You just hold on, and I'll get us out of here." So that's what we did. We walked all the way across that river in the dark, except for the little light on Daddy's head, on his cap. So when we got out on the other side, we still had to walk through the woods. And it was very dark. Well, the fog had settled in while we were crossing the river, and it had gotten very thick. In fact, you couldn't hardly see but just a foot or two in front of you. So Daddy was in the front, and I was behind him, and I was following him. And he had been marking the trail as we went. He'd been breaking little twigs or leaving something to leave a mark. So he would So if we happen to go in a circle, because when people are lost and they're walking, quite often they walk in circles and don't know it, even when they think they're walking straight. So he marked the trail as we went along. Well, in a little while, he said, here's my marker. So we've been walking in a circle. So we've got to figure out how to get out of here and not go in a circle. So he thought for a minute and he said, I'm going to give you the light and I'm going to walk ahead. And you shine that light right in front of you. And I'm going to walk. And if I walk to the left or to the right, you tell me. If I'm not walking straight, you tell me. And that's what we did. And I shined it and Daddy walked straight. And then once or twice he kind of got over to the side, the left or the right. And I said, you're going left or you're going right. And he straightened it back up. And we followed that beam of light out of the woods. And that's how we got out of the woods that foggy night. But we were kind of lost in the woods, even though Daddy knew the vicinity we were in because he used to play around there when he was a little boy. Still, because it was so dark and so foggy, we still had gone in a circle. And we had to be able to stop doing that before we could be able to get out and get to our car, which was quite a walk away, and get out of there and get the dogs and get them in the car and take them with us home. So anyway, that's what happened the night that we got out of that fog. But that taught me a lot. That taught me to trust Daddy. He loved me, and I knew he would take care of me. So I knew he knew what he was doing, and all I had to do was obey him. And I knew everything would be okay. And so it was. We got home that night, and it was a great adventure. When I think back on it, it was a really fun thing that happened, even though it was a little bit scary for me to start with. So sometimes we get in situations like that, but what we need to learn to do is trust somebody who loves us. And I hope you have great dreams tonight, and hope you enjoyed my story. If you did, remember to like it, subscribe, and comment, and leave me your name. Thanks. Bye.